Hi there, it's Jonathan Herps, founder and CEO of Scale Up Growth Partners. Welcome to my Business Focus series, where I chat with owners, managing directors, founders, and business leaders of scaling companies. It centers around their entrepreneurial journey so far and their aspirations for their companies. Today, I'm really looking forward to speaking to Lee Featherby, who's CEO of PowerfulPoints. Hi, Lee.
Hi, Jonathan. Pleasure to be here.
And welcome. So looking forward to our conversation. So let's just start with, what does PowerfulPoints do? How long have you been doing it?
So we started back in 2003 creating presentations for organizations in the very early days of where presentations were becoming more and more complex, and death by PowerPoint was starting to emerge very much as a plague upon business. And basically, I helped a friend of mine do a presentation for a lecturer. She said, "You're good at this." And I looked around and no one was doing it. So I set up this business that did that and worked from home. And then over the years, that level of expertise has grown into not just presentations, but we really focus on presentations, videos, and motion graphics, and training in the area of presentations as well. So how to build a presentation, how to design it, and how to deliver it effectively. We really sort of walk the talk in that sort of sense. And it's been a really interesting journey. As probably everyone watching this has had a very interesting journey as they've seen their business evolve and grow over a period of time.
So you started PowerPoint presentations, being simple. What does it look like now?
So it started out with me working from home, doing it part-time, creating what in hindsight was a very horrible website that had trumpets blaring and all of this sort of stuff occurring at the time. And I said to the person that suggested this, I said, "I can't see this ever doing more than $10,000 a month." Well, now we've got an office in Shanghai, we've got an office in Sydney, we've got clients right around the world, we've got about 20 staff up and down on that sort of stuff, about 20 staff. We deal with probably, some of the world's biggest brands: McDonald's, Aldi, Hyundai, Hitachi. Australia, we deal with CBA, Qantas, a large number of organizations. So it's almost like it took on a life of its own and dragged me along with it to some degree. I'd never expected it to get this big. But at some point I realized that what we did was really adding value to our clients. So, I got behind it and started to push it. And that's when I made the decision after about 3 or 4 years that I couldn't do it part-time and work from home. I either had to commit to it and get an office and make it full-time, or keep it small. And it just was, it's fascinating what we do. We, unlike an advertising agency, which might deal with marketing, or an accounting firm that deals with finance, we deal with everybody. We deal with HR, we deal with marketing, we deal with, corporate. We worked on 20-year marketing plans or 20-year business plans for some of Australia or the world's largest companies in the various markets they operate in. So just to get access to that, to see that, to learn from that is just a really, the best word to fit it is actually exhilarating.
Great. So tell me, when you talk about, just going back to your core customer, you've talked about large corporations. Is that your niche, or are you?
We're happy to deal with anybody who wants to make a difference. We target, from a marketing perspective, larger organizations. We're even very fussy about those that we will.
Excuse me.
That's okay.
Coming up a goal.
I was in China speaking to a division of BlueScope some months back, about first trip back to China after 3 years. And she outlined this division called Butler, which actually manufactures industrial buildings. And she said, "We don't want to deal with everybody. We identify the people we want to deal with, and we target and work with them." And I thought, that's a really logical strategy. We only want to work with organizations that want to take us on as partners. I can't speak strongly enough about Aldi and McDonald's in terms of them wanting to build a relationship with their suppliers, rather than, putting everything out to tender or to pitch all the time, to, always boiling down the price. We want to deal with people who want a relationship, and not, for want of a better term, just a series of one-night stands with us as a supplier. So,
that makes total sense. And interesting enough, in a past life, I was a private banker, and I actually banked the entire McDonald's Australia leadership team, but which led into leading structured finance team to finance 140 McDonald's, the fit out of the 100 McDonald's, about 40 odd McDonald's franchisees. That is going back to the early 90s now, but once again, it was all, even then they were focused on their relationships with their suppliers.
Yeah, they have this philosophy Ray Kroc created called the three-legged stool, which is the corporation, the franchisees, and their suppliers. Yeah. But as an irony as well, I used to be the marketing manager of Red Rooster Foods back in the mid-80s, so when I was 26, 27. So, read a little books on McDonald's back then, so there's an irony to that as well.
There is. I mean, look, if I was going to do my time over again, if I was advising my son, which I will be one day, I'd be going and working McDonald's to learn the way to do processes. That's the starting point. And, I dealt with people like, Charlie Bell and Steve German, who was the CEO and CFO in those days, and just extraordinary business people.
We did the e-learning program for the cafe in China because they're employing 5,000 baristas in the next 12 months. The numbers in China are just breathtaking. But as a result, as a function of that, I went to McCafe here and went through their processes. It's just so systemically perfect. They never cross hands. In a McCafe, one barista should never reach across another one. Just systemized and simplistic like that. It's inspirational to see.
Very much so. And of course, from an entrepreneurial perspective, it's one of those things I work with my clients. Building those processes and systems and the SOPs, the checklists, so that it's one of the key it's the key legs of growth in my view.
Yeah, I agree.
And it's so hard to do, and for a lot of us, it's very, very boring. But once they get it right, it falls on the key planks of exponential growth.
It's been one of my focuses actually. Our IT system has long been built to replicate our processes. We have the one system from a lead right through to invoicing. The whole thing is systemized in one system. Enter the information once, and keep using that information all the way through. It's been a critical part of the business, actually.
Yeah. Well, we might come back and revisit that. So you mentioned you've only just gone back to China for the first time in 3 years. So let's lead into the pandemic question. What changes did you make because of the pandemic that has stuck with the business?
The main one is obviously working from home. Even the residual today, 2 days a week, our staff can work from home. In actual fact, I'm working from home today, and the whole office is closed because we are right next to a construction site where they're building the new Crow's Nest railway station, and we were advised it's going to be extremely noisy 3 days. So this decision was made to send everyone to work from home, which it does have a little bit of logistic problems because of security around what we do. People can't work on their own PCs, and designers, particularly our multimedia designers, need high-power PCs. So essentially, they've got a computer in the office, and I've got to have to give them a computer at home as well. But we were very fortunate when Australia went into the first lockdown with COVID. China was coming out of it, and I actually rang my clients and said, "Look, in China, we need your support because of what's happening here." And we were that busy that from the work coming out of China, that I actually get to get my staff to work over Easter. And I said to them, you can't go anywhere, so you may as well do the work for our Chinese clients, and I'll give you the days off at the other end of this lockdown. So apart from that, probably nothing really, because it was really just, we're digital business and you can work from pretty well anywhere.
Yeah. So really, as long as you've got the right bandwidth, the internet bandwidth, you can do it.
That's right. Exactly.
That's me. Yeah. As Lee knows, I was a little bit late this morning because for whatever reason they dug a trench across our street this morning and yesterday and cut out all our internet cables. Anyway, so what does the future look like, and where do you see the main challenges going forward?
Our main challenges at the moment are getting staff, quality has been where we've hung our hat on. We've never been cheap. We don't profess to be cheap, but we profess to get it right the first time. And the real challenge at the moment is, we're advertising constantly for designers and just really struggling to get quality staff, people who are proud of what they do and can have the skill sets we need. We've actually found that the most successful results we've had are people we've picked up out of university and trained right from scratch. They seem to be the ones that have lasted a long time, that do work to the standards that we need, and have the passion and commitment about what we do.
Do you require them to be in the office a number of days a week? I mean, how?
3 days a week, yeah.
Okay.
And Mondays and Thursdays, everyone needs to be in the office.
So which is the way most of my clients have gone, but it means you're geographically limited in your recruitment base.
Yeah, look, we've looked at trying to recruit overseas for all sorts of reasons, in the Philippines and that sort of thing. And again, we just can't find designers that have the experience and the design standards that we do. And this is actually driven by our designers, believe it or not. It seems to be a cultural thing in the company, which I'm very proud of. That the culture is such that it's almost self-enforcing, if you like. We had designers leave because they couldn't keep up to the standard. So that's in a sense a good thing to have. And culture's been an extremely important focus of mine over the years.
I absolutely get where you're coming from, but it's interesting that I have all of my staff are remote. And I hire wherever I can get the right people. So I've got people in India, Pakistan, Philippines. The two that I find really interesting is Vitaly and Alex, and they're out of the Ukraine. So it's me doing mine a little bit for. Vitaly, for instance, edits these podcasts, and I found their commitment, their quality to exceptional. Being Ukrainian trained. And the culture. And one of the really interesting points of the war has been that, apart from the fact it's been very sobering that, I lose them for days at a time because the Russians are bombing their village, that sort of thing, which is very sobering. But Elon Musk made Starlink, his satellite internet system, available to the Ukraine at the start of the war, and which means they've all got really high-powered internet connections. And I'm getting fabulous quality work from the Ukraine, while at the same time, Phil is on giving something back. So it's just a thought.
One of the real challenges for our business is we're really deadline based. You can't go back to a client and say, look, I won't have your presentation ready for Tuesday when you got to present, but I'll have it ready Thursday. Is that okay? And sometimes, we get really short-term deadlines. In one case, we picked up a brief from a client at 5 o'clock on a Friday, delivered 75 slides back at 9 a.m. Monday. And that, we hate to do that because it makes such a huge demand on our staff's time, number one. And number two, it's really hard to maintain the quality. But, that's the service level that sometimes you just need to provide. So.
Exactly right. So tell me, do you think has been your biggest learning since you've been a business owner?
No, that's a really interesting question. I think it's don't do it for money. Do it for something bigger. Like have it something bigger. Create a vision for a reason for your staff to get out of bed in the morning. That's not, and ours is about changing the world. It's not about putting print on paper or pixels on the plasma, as we say. It's about, understanding that what you're doing actually leads to a big thing. The best example I can give you is and it's on our website, this particular example, is in the e-learning program for McDonald's. Lots of people go on first dates at McCafe. And if the date goes well, then they could end up happily married, who knows where they'll end up, or they may not end up anywhere. But, making sure that the barista is well trained and can deliver a good cup of coffee facilitates all sorts of conversations rather than having to deal with that sort of stuff. So, there's 3 or 4 examples in our video about that sort of stuff, but it's bigger stuff than just doing a job for that, for the money that comes in. And let's think about the impact this is going to make on society or on the people that are hearing the communication. We did some stuff for Aldi, some posters around during COVID about procedures they need to take in order to ensure that they don't get COVID and all that sort of stuff. You get that wrong, and people can get very sick or die. So it's important stuff, and we bring the value to it ourselves in terms of where we paint that. So give your staff something bigger. If you and your staff are getting out of bed, I do a presentation called Inspiring Your Staff Don't Look to the Balance Sheet, because I do some keynote speaking. And this particular client said, we want to be, the number one, whatever it was, but it's extremely mechanical, and it wasn't the type of thing that was going to get a worker in a factory out of bed to be the preferred supplier. Their vision was to be the preferred supplier to their customers. That's not it. Think bigger. Think. Create passion in your business about the purpose and the vision and your mission.
Totally agree. Have you read Simon Sinek's book, Why?
Who's serious about business has not read that? That's one of the mandatory, business books of the world these days. And it's one of we actually quote Simon in regards to creating a good presentation. Most people in a presentation deal with the what, the where, the how, but they don't deal with the why. Why is it important that we do this? What's the context and that sort of thing? So it's one of the things that we focus on when we're training people about how to create a good presentation is start thinking about the why and deal with the why in your presentation. Because until they buy the why, they won't buy the what, the where, the how, the when, the who.
You make a really, really good point. In my business, when I was looking at this 5-6 years ago, I'm going to help you grow a profitable enterprise and a finished business that works without you, and that's great. But when it really came down to it, the why for my business is grow remarkable leaders, grow remarkable businesses.
Yeah.
And we attach ourselves to those two words.
Yeah. We're about changing the world with powerful communications.
Really good point. So tell me, when you think about the word successful, who comes to mind and why?
I think there's this standard people that you hear about, Steve Jobs, blah, blah, blah. But I think one of the most impressive people that I've seen in society at the moment is Twiggy Forrester. Not only has he generated millions of dollars or billions of dollars and successfully developed some resources, but the way he conducts himself as a member of society and his philanthropic episodes. And this morning he announced that he and his wife had separated, but the dignity with which he did that and the fact that they're still friends and that sort of thing, I think just reflects on a man that I'd like to spend, like have dinner with the guy and just find out a little bit more about it. He would be the main one. He would be the main one I would refer to at the moment.
Yeah, I've met him and had lunch with him, me and 80 other people.
Very intimate lunch.
Yeah, very intimate lunch. But yeah, I did get to have a chat with him, and it's some years ago now. But what he's doing, God, he's arguably the source of one of the great polluters in the history of man, being Fortescue and the iron ore, which is where he made his billions. But he and his wife, and I agree with you, the dignity of them. Yeah, I have to read the announcement. And they're in their announcement. It's not going to affect our philanthropic. It's not going to affairs. It's not going to affect our work to make the planet green. The work he's doing. He and his wife from the company is Migaloo, and I think it's Migaloo, and I forgot the other name, on green hydrogen. Which is all about negating the pollution that is caused by the iron ore, and also they're a phenomenal partnership, and he's a phenomenal.
And the guys at Atlassian as well are probably equally.
And Scott Farquhar and Mike Cannon-Brooks, the founders of Atlassian, who use the methodology that I coach, and they go back going back to 2007. They did a values workshop in the stuff I coach, which has stayed with them to today. It's worth everyone to learn about, get an insight into company values. Just search Atlassian core values, and the stuff that comes up, including the video from the staff, is phenomenal. But once again, they're two men who are working, and look, both for profit, but working in separate areas to try and save the planet.
Exactly.
Great. Agree. Thank you. So Are you a reader? Do you listen to podcasts, autobiographies, anything you could recommend?
I'm a passionate reader. I read about 50 books a year, and there's a mixture of fiction in there, and a mixture of business books as well. And I'm just trying to remember one of the best books. I'm just trying to remember the name of it. I'm reading Lee Salz's book on sales at the moment. Salz on sales at the moment, about selling different. Because I find it challenging in business to business communications at the moment, in trying to get people's attention. As we say, it's never been easier to contact anyone, but it's harder to be heard than ever before. So trying to get that breakthrough is a real challenge. So it's interesting. So it's called Sell Different, I think. And it's the sort of thing you need to take notes through as you go through. I'm a big believer in the old favourites. My father had me read How to Win Friends and Influence People when I was about 15. And I don't think those rules have changed at all in that period of time. In fact, I think one of the things that hasn't changed is the essential nature of human beings. And that's one of the things we stick to in our communication. But, we're challenged at the moment, and I'm still trying to work my way through it with the advent of TikTok and all communications being delivered in 20 or 30 seconds. And it's proving very challenging for clients like McDonald's, that's their prime market. And their training programs are trying to get things done in communications delivered in 20 or 30 seconds in a way that's effective, but looks unprofessional in a, if I can use that term. It doesn't look like it's been made with big production values and all of that sort of thing. So and with AI and all that sort of stuff, there's so much happening in our industry at the moment that is going to impact it. But it's been an industry that's been subject to change since the first Apple Lisa came out, and they said it was going to send graphic designers out of business.
It's fascinating. I mean, you've just raised, there's another hour of conversation just in Australia if we want to run with it, Lee. So thank you very much. But it's really interesting what you make. We've just had a family staying with us, dear friends of ours from Penang. Well, they're Aussies, but living in Penang and have been living there for 10 years. And they're two teenagers were here and just attached to the phones, and it's all TikTok. And when I say that the son would be attached 24 hours a day if his mum didn't take the phone off his body to get him to sleep, just attached to TikTok. My lesson is, my children are not going to get a phone. Then my children are 9, they're not going to get phones, so they're certainly never going to have access to TikTok because it's
great. It's a great book, and I'm just trying to remember what it was called. About how Facebook. I've read it, but it was 12 months ago, about how Facebook and they have specialists in doing the things that stimulates us to come back and keep looking, keep checking.
Yeah.
That sort of thing. But you go to China, you'll see it. Really, that's the most connected economy I've ever seen. And people constantly. Think about the only time they won't be looking at their phones mostly sometimes is when they're crossing the road, but often walking down the streets and all just, it's 1984. It really is.
Mm. And it's interesting you talk about AI because I'm heavily getting into it. And I've got 2 docs in front of me now, and one of which is ChatGPT prompts for it to write a special report, which I've been developing over a period of time. But fascinating how you can get ChatGPT to learn from itself. One of the things is, look back at the report you wrote. Is there anything you would change or improve about it, subject to a series of questions? And it's something significantly improved. But yesterday I was looking at two new AI apps. One called Opus Pro, OPUS Pro, and Opus Pro will take this video, the URL from this video. When we're finished, if I throw that into Opus Pro, it will spit out 10 plus YouTube shorts, TikTok videos within about 3 or 4 minutes.
I must follow that one up.
Yeah, based on the lessons that it picks up the key lessons out of our, without any instruction, picks up the key lessons out of our discussion and will spit out. So I'm experimenting with that. The other one is an app called Content at Scale. And
excuse me 1 minute. Function of us being late. That's my China production meeting.
I'm sorry. No problem. But this Content at Scale will take a YouTube video and automatically turn it into a full blog article within a couple of minutes, including SEO or including the works.
What's that one called?
Content at Scale.
Content at Scale. Okay, Opus and then Content at Scale. I will remember those. So.
Yeah. I'm going to give it call out to Alaric Heck from about adoutreach.com. He did a blog on those, and just like let's try to keep up with it and try to work out, well, not go too far down the rabbit hole is the issue I run into.
Yeah, our experience and our direction on this sort of stuff is a bit like any of the technology that's impacted the design industry, Photoshop, After Effects, all of that sort of stuff. The ones that have learned to use the technology the best are the ones that have risen to the top. Now, I don't think this is any different. You will still need a human touch inside of any AI in order to get maximum value of it. And that's really our focus in our training with our people at the moment. How do you get on top of AI? How do you, I was speaking to one of the people who were developing our training program with, and he said, I asked ChatGPT, give me a 2-page summary of the history of ChatGPT. It said, I can't do that. And he eventually got that, but it was the function of the language he was using to get, initially he couldn't get that response. So he had to work through and get the right prompts in there to get the answer he needed. I think that's going to be the difference between those who work well with ChatGPT and any AI.
It's all about working out what to ask. I asked ChatGPT the other day for to give me the answers that the founder and CEO of ChatGPT would give to the 9 questions I'm asking you.
Oh, really? How did that?
Absolutely. It came out with a great great set of answers. And yesterday I'm sitting here, we're about to push this blog out to multiple platforms. And, I gave a very quick description. I said, I want you to, please write me a design brief for new artwork. And lo and behold, in a minute, it had written a design brief, which it took me longer to actually put the design brief into Fiverr than it took me to actually write it using ChatGPT. I'm going to keep going. Last question. Any last piece of advice or parting words for entrepreneurs or aspiring entrepreneurs out there?
One of the, I was speaking to a friend of mine who became a lecturer in small business just before, it was January of 2020. I was down in Melbourne doing some training, and he contacted me, and I hadn't spoken to him for years, and I didn't know he'd done a PhD in it. And I said to him, "What do you find the most reason for success in small business?" And he said it boils down to one thing: it's persistence. It's just staying in there, hanging in there, keep working, don't give up. He said that seems to be the one commonality of all successful entrepreneurs is they just don't give up. They keep working at it.
Exactly right. And keep finding a different way around it.
Yeah, keep looking, keep trying to get better.
Yeah. No, great advice, and I totally agree with that. Lee, thank you.
Pleasure. Been really enjoyable.
Yeah, no, look, this has become one of the 2 or 3 things in my business that I won't give up. This and coaching and building the IP, because I enjoy the conversation so much.
I agree. I totally understand why.
Well, thank you again.
Good. It's a pleasure. Thanks for the opportunity.
Yes.